Hello, I'm William Gallagher, and this is the 58 Keys Script Club. It's a book club, but it's for scripts, and you could, it'd be very nice, listen to me infuse away about this, or you could just go read the script. Link in the description, as ever. This time, Studio 7 on the Sunset Strip by Aaron Sorkin. Yeah. If you know the show at all, well, you know it aired as Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, and you may also know that it failed spectacularly, really. Studio 60 is a drama set behind the scenes of, it's Saturday Night Live, really. A Saturday Night Live-like comedy show. And the real show aired on NBC starting in 2006, which is significant because at the very same time, Tina Fey's comedy about a Saturday Night Live-like show also aired on NBC. I mean, I think going in, even she may have thought that Aaron Sorkin's Studio 60 was going to win, but Fey's 30 Rock was a smash hit for 7 seasons, while Studio 60 limped to the end of a single one. Now, I've read this pilot script before, and I really enjoy it, and coming across it again recently, I still enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it enough that I watched the aired version, and then, it was late at night, and there was YouTube. What are you going to do? I also discovered the untransmitted pilot version, and so I watched that. By the way, if you're ever tempted to do the same, well, yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I can tell you the difference between the aired and the unaired pilot version of Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip amounts to maybe 20 seconds. It's a couple of beat pauses for breath. There's kind of an unnecessary payoff, really, to a very small gag. It doesn't change the tone, doesn't add, doesn't detract, but yeah. But I'd watched that, so by now, the script, I was committed, really. So I also watched other YouTube videos I could find about this show, and there aren't that many, although I suppose you and I are now adding to that short little list. But one significant one was an interview with star Matthew Perry analysing why the show went wrong, and he was so interesting about it. And yet, after several days of thinking about this, I feel he was wrong. I mean, he said, many other things I do agree with, that the viewing public did not recognise the pressures that the characters in this drama were under to make a comedy show every week. He said that they had no reason to recognise their pressures. It's no reason, really, to have ever experienced it themselves. So he said viewers were just wondering what the fuss was about all the time. Like I say, he said so many other things that I think were really insightful. And he also talked so interestingly, actually, about what it was like working on the show once they knew it wasn't working in that sense, that people were not tuning in. That's what I mean. And he also said that he felt that the pilot script was fantastic, that it was up there with the best of them. And I agree, but listen, if you had to take either my opinion of what went wrong with Studio 60 or its star Matthew Perry's take on it, well, clearly you'd take his. I still don't think he's right. I mean, at first I thought perhaps I very much got the tensions, but that would be because I've worked in live shows on radio, I've been in studio for live television, I've been interviewed on live television. I mean, barely really, but enough. Yet at the very same time, on the very same network, there was this 30 Rock show, which was winning over audiences with the very same situation. So if this really was a barrier to audiences getting on a show, well, then Tina Fey beat it. Although, mind you, Tina Fey is an absolute writing hero of mine, really specifically, actually, because of her book, Bossy Pants. I read some excerpt from it in a magazine when it came out, and immediately had to buy the whole thing. Fantastic writing. She is exhilarating, and you see that in 30 Rock. Studio 60. I mean, I don't know now. Years ago, when I first read it, I might well have agreed with Matthew Perry, because really, he's absolutely right. The script is an excellent read, and yet, digging around and thinking about it so much, I came across accounts of allegedly how petty Studio 60 is. I mean, seriously, allegedly, I don't know. And I think it applies maybe to the whole series rather than specifically the pilot, but it's claimed that the show takes these potshots against real life and apparently poorly disguised Hollywood figures who, again, can't underline this too much, allegedly, writer Aaron Sorkin had various run-ins with. Do you know, my school careers teacher laughed at me for wanting to be a writer, and he got my whole class to laugh at me as well. It was an amazingly painful moment. It did change things. Now that I am a writer, I am not so petty, though, as to track down that teacher and tell him, because I can't remember his name, but, you know, okay. Whether Aaron Sorkin used Studio 60 to vent, I can tell you that the pilot script also praises people. There's an awards ceremony in the pilot, and on the page, the winning character, actually the one played by Matthew Perry, calls out, credits many of the writers that we know Aaron Sorkin rates because he worked with them, at least some of them, repeatedly. The aired version cuts that down, actually cuts that bit out completely, and very much more from the script to there. I think the show is improved by those cuts, the tightening. So reading this pilot script and then watching the aired version, that's worth your time, I think. I really don't think that it's worth your time also then going on to watch the unaired pilot. It has a different title, isn't it? Blank for the title sequence. Anyway, Studio 60, putting aside the apparent pettiness, the pettiness I hear is there, okay, and putting aside the audience getting or not getting the pressures it describes, it is still a fascinating example of a series that appears to have been doomed from the start and doomed from the inside. I wish more of the scripts were available. I would so study the show and, you know, just enjoy the read. But let me give you two examples, if I may, of what I, you know, with my special 2020 hindsight talent, it's my thing, I think were fatal wounds. Starting with how, in the pilot, the bad guy, if there is one, is Jack, a network executive, but really, really shortly afterwards in the series, we're shown to see him as actually be quite a good guy, really. Okay, and now suddenly the baddie, well, it's his boss, the owner of the network. Yeah, but very, very quickly that owner turns out to be nice too. So after a ridiculously short while, the baddie of the series, the adversary for our characters, apart from the situation that they're creating themselves, is the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, which in this particular situation licenses the broadcast. Do you care? You know, whatever, yeah. There's no baddie, right? There's no antagonist. People are just battling with themselves and their own pressures, and that's great, and it's really done well. But an external antagonist lets you have the inner turmoil, but kind of put the screws on it too. I mean, am I just horrible? The thing is, Aaron Sorkin's previous series in this form, Sports Night, that was set around a TV show, and it had particular network executives who were much more successful baddies. Sorkin's The West Wing, well, it had various opposition leaders and kind of slow burn issues between the president and the vice president. But Studio 60, nothing. And seemingly not for want of trying. I mean, Jack, then the owner, then the FCC. That's kind of, actually, that's three goes at an adversary. And that, I mean, what a connection. I'm suddenly reminded of Star Trek The Next Generation. That show introduced one race of aliens called the Ferengi, who were intended to be the show's big enemy, the new frightening things. But in their very first episode, their very first scene, the very first frame, they were presented in such a ridiculous way that that plan was just gone, thrown out immediately, instantly, laughably, really. So later, when Star Trek Deep Space Nine wanted to introduce a big new baddie, they were really aware of this. They were a bit worried, and they decided to hedge bets a little bit. Deep Space Nine would instead introduce three enemies, just so surely one of them would stick. If you happen to know the show, the three were the Jem'Hadar soldiers, the Vorta overseers, and above them the founders. Although, as it turns out, all three were excellent. Yeah. Great writing. Studio 60. Like Sports Night, okay, it's behind the scenes at a TV show. With Sports Night, I believe it was accurate. I don't know, but it sounded like it was. And the characters were entirely believable in their passion for this sport thing they're all on about. In Studio 60, it's a comedy show that they are making, but none of the comedy in that Saturday Night Live show is funny. None of the sketches it shows, none of them. I mean, Studio 60, it's up. The drama has very many moments that are funny, but not one. I mean, not one was in the segments of this Saturday Night Live show. It was just always dead air every time. And actually, how could I forget this? Talking about funny, one funny moment in Studio 60, the drama, is when a character, it's complicated, but ends up smashing a window in the studio. Only that exact thing happened with a character in The West Wing and in Sports Night. Aaron Sorkin, as great as he is in so many ways, he repeats whole stories in different shows. And I mean that literally. One in particular, okay, I'll admit it, this has actually kept me awake at nights thinking about it. I know that's silly, but it did. In both Sports Night and Studio 60, a major male character is pursuing a woman who, at least initially, isn't interested. In Sports Night, it works as a romance. You completely get it. You are entirely on both the woman's and the man's side, and so quickly you want them to get together. In Studio 60, you want to phone the police. It is that creepy, stalky. Same story. Every actor excellent, all of them. But great in one show, unbearable in the other. The sole difference I can even think about really is that in Studio 60, it's a male lead character pursuing his boss, and the boss is another lead character. In Sports Night, the man doing the pursuing is one of the lead characters, and the woman is a guest actor on the show. I really like this story in Sports Night, and I very much like both of the characters, so I'm reluctant to boil it down in any way, but I suppose you have to argue, really, that the guest character in Sports Night was brought into the show specifically to be pursued, really. In Studio 60, it's between the two leads who were already there, and they both have a lot of other story going on. It's just uncomfortable. I mean, although, what was I just saying about adding pressure to characters? Isn't that yeah. Whatever it is, Studio 60's version of that story, bleeps at me, doesn't work, and also doesn't work to the extent that, like I say, you become uncomfortable watching it develop throughout the run. Sports Night, really for both. Studio 60, yeah. I expect, actually, that you and I on this script club are going to talk about Aaron Sorkin's, well, at some point, the incredibly well-known The West Wing, and yeah, maybe the startlingly underknown Sports Night at some point. But for now, the link for Studio 7 on the Sunset Strip is in the description. Thanks very much for watching. Now, take care of yourself, hey? Read more, but you are a writer, so also write more. It's important. And I'll see you soon.